On behalf of the Justice Brandeis Law Society of the 9th Judicial District, the Holocaust Museum and Center for Tolerance and Education, and the Rockland County Bar Association, I want to welcome you to this special session of the Supreme Court held each year on Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance, at the Rockland County Courthouse. This is a very significant event that we hold each year to teach the lessons that it was the last line in Nazi Germany that was crossed when the judiciary no longer swore an oath to their constitution, but to one man, and when the legal society in Germany ceased to operate as an operating bar. So we're here today to remember the lessons of the Holocaust, of the Shoah, by the way, all lawfully and legally enacted by the German government. Just think about that. That is why those assembled here today in their black robes so significantly show their support for the rule of law. How critically important that is. We're here today at the courthouse probably with a lot more of a cloud hanging over us than we have in years past. Jews, we like to worry, but sometimes needlessly. But now we worry with all of the need to worry. I thought a great deal about what the theme for today's commemoration would be about, and it would be easy to walk into the milieu of speaking about the overt anti-Semitism, the outright Jew hatred that we're seeing throughout the country and the world, and particularly on our college campuses, and to discuss today, as we will see, the cornerstones of our democracy, which are fraying at the edges: civics, civility, and the legal community. So it is very important that we thank these judges for their service, for what they do, for what they uphold, and for what they stand for. This is more than just a building of brick and mortar. These courthouses are hallowed grounds for democracy. It is, in fact, the last line of democracy is the courthouse. And so please join me in giving our judiciary a round of applause. A lot of planning goes into this event, and this year in particular, I want to thank Major Negron and Captain Vale and all the court officers, all of the members of the Sheriff's Department, our Sheriff Lou Falco, County Executive's Office, the District Attorney's Office, all who helped in making sure that we're here today safely. You probably did not even see it outside, but you were safely escorted into this building. There's a great deal of security both in this building and outside the building. And I even think up in the air, I think I hear the helicopter. That could be your ride, Ed. But I can tell you that everybody took this very seriously. And we did some security walkthroughs. We cut down the amount of folks that normally are here because of the security concerns. But make no mistake about it, we've got great folks, the court officers, our sheriff, the police, everybody that are involved. So please give them a round of applause. I would like to acknowledge we have a whole host of elected officials on all levels of government are here today, and I would like if all of our elected leaders could please stand and thank them for being here, showing their support for the Jewish community. It also like our Board of Trustees of the Holocaust Museum, for the members of the Board of Trustees, my colleagues, to please stand. Those of you that are here on the from the board, our board president, thank you very much. And to everybody that showed up, it's a statement to show up. And the theme of what we want to talk about today is not the tsuris, not the troubles, although that is so critically important, but to talk about what very few people know. One of the greatest secrets in the county is the work of the Holocaust Museum and Center for Tolerance and Education. I'm going to blow your mind with a statistic. 40,000 children each year receive a Holocaust education, both at the museum and in their school, because of the work of the Holocaust Museum. That's the real work. Teaching, learning, fighting hate at its very origins. Not just anti-Semitic hate, all kinds of hate. Because remember, if they hate you, they're coming for me. And that's with any group that's here. So just remember that, to think about the fact, the good work that what this museum does, to sit there and educate all of these kids. And by the way, I think it's, Andrea, it's 95% of the children that are taught are not Jewish. And I'm not sure we shouldn't revisit that to make certain that the kids in our Jewish schools are brought through at even greater numbers, because what we're seeing on the campuses is a great disparity, and it causes a lot of concern. But I'm grateful for the work, what our volunteers, our docents, the educators, people like Ginny Norfleet. Where's Ginny? Can you stand up there, lady with the pink hair? This lady talks the talk and walks the walk. She is an integral part of a program we have called Better Together. You'll hear from Andrea and Ginny later. But make no mistake about it, Ginny Norfleet is one of those voices that's doing a great deal to stem the hate in our county. She's doing a great job. And for those of you that are not anointed or not familiar, some of you saw Ginny stand up with a pink hat on. It's not to be confused with Dr. Francis Pratt hat, who's wearing a very beautiful burgundy hat. Francis, would you please stand up? The 41-year member of So in case some of you said, I've never seen that pink hat on Dr. Pratt, you haven't, and you won't. Dr. Pratt's hats are much more flamboyant. So, this is true. So at this time, I'm going to ask our folks to help us with a video welcome by the Honorable Ann E. Menahan, the Administrative Judge for the 9th Judicial District. She could not be with us, but those of you that have been here in the past remember her words. One of the most moving keynote addresses that we had in the history of this event was Judge Menahan, who is a member of the Supreme Court but serves as the administrative judge. And so, without further ado.
Judicial District, I welcome you all to this year's Yom HaShoah ceremony, where we remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered during the Holocaust, as well as the millions of Roma, Sinti, Slavs, disabled people, LGBTQ people, political dissidents, and other innocent victims who were killed alongside of them at the hands of the Nazis and those who collaborated with them. The observance of Yom HaShoah is a call on every one of us to reflect on how we will personally contribute to fulfilling the promise of never again. The hard truth is that when we do not affirmatively act in furtherance of this solemn commitment, the cries for help that went unanswered during the Holocaust continue to go unheard and unanswered today. And that is an unforgivable tragedy. which anyone with even a passing familiarity of what's going on in the world today should know has had tragic repercussions, not only for the Jewish people, but for persecuted populations everywhere. Fulfillment of this promise of never again is what we owe every one of the millions murdered in the Holocaust, and it is what we owe to our children and our grandchildren who will inherit this broken world. Please know how sorry I am that I could be with you only in spirit today. I'd like to thank the Brandeis Society and Lisa Zeiderman, the Holocaust Museum and Center for Tolerance and Education, and Andrea Winograd, Paul Adler, Sabrina Greco, and everyone who made this important and meaningful ceremony happen. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here today, for filling every seat, and for your commitment to the promise of never again.
At this time, I'd like to call Commissioner Sabrina Greco to the podium. Sabrina is the Commissioner of Jurors for the County of Rockland, probably the single most important person for any of you to know. I wouldn't go up and say, like, Judge Lefkowitz or something. I would go and see Sabrina Greco. She can actually help you. Commissioner of Jurors, you're all going to get that notice at home and say, who do I know? You have to just call Sabrina. All kidding aside, Sabrina Greco has been extraordinary in her service to this community and making sure that over the years this commemoration happens. And there's a great deal of planning that goes on in the courthouse, and Sabrina quarterbacks all of that. So please join Commissioner Greco in the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to ask Cantor Anazar to come up from Temple Des Shalom, who's going to lead us in the Akina. And I'm sure that the Cantor will tell you what this prayer means. We're putting it up on the screen in transliteration and in translation. But unfortunately, we were really hoping, as long as we've been planning this, we were really hoping not to have to say this prayer here today. But unfortunately, on the 214th day, the hostages are still not with their family and back in the land of Israel is unacceptable. And so we ask that you join Cantor Zahar in whatever way you can in reciting the Akina.
Here's the poster for all the hostages. We hope there are some of them still alive. And we all pray for our brothers and sisters in Israel. And this prayer, Achenu, means literally our brothers, telling us about how we pray for those people to be safe, to come home as soon as possible. Please join me in singing. You have the transliteration right here on the screen. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Hanetunim betzara, betzara ubeshivia. Ha'omdim bein bayam ubein bayabasha. Again from the beginning, Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Let's hear all of you sing. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. Hanetunim betzara, betzara ubeshivia. Ha'omdim bein bayam ubein bayabasha. Hamakom ובזמן קריב. Together, let's try it together one more time. המקום ירחם. המקום ירחם, ירחם עליהם, ויוציאם מצרה, לברה, ומאפל לאורה, ומשיבו לגאולה השתה בגלה, ובזמן קריב.
Just leave that up for a moment. As for our brothers, the whole house of Israel, who are given over to trouble or captivity, whether they abide on the sea or on the dry land, may all present have mercy upon them, and bring them forth from trouble to enlargement, from darkness to light, from subjugation to redemption, now speedily and at near time. Bring them home. Bring them home. Can you imagine if the effort on the college campuses around the country, was dedicated to bringing them home? What would happen in the world today? And rather, the thought of bringing them home is not even on the lips, it's not on the thought of anybody protesting on those college campuses today. Bring them home. You need to make your voices heard in the Congress, heard in the state houses. We must bring them home, and each and every one of you can take an affirmative step by also becoming a member and a participant at the Holocaust Museum. And if you haven't seen it, Dr. Rapallo is here from the college, along with some of the members of the Board of Trustees, and Ed Day. They are gracious landlords. The County of Rockland, gracious landlords. And you want to see a world-class facility, and I mean that. You come to the lower level of the library building on the campus of Rockland Community College, and you'll understand when there's education and tolerance, you don't have the same kind of problems that you have in communities where that doesn't exist. Look at the campus of Rockland Community College, and you will see the kind of cooperation and tolerance and the spirit of togetherness that campus exudes. So we thank you, Doctor. We haven't broken it to Ed Day yet. When Ed Day signed the lease, he said he was busy and he had to run out. We said, no problem, sign it, Ed. It's not a big deal to sign it. And it wasn't a big deal. It's only $1 a year. But we thank you for that. We really thank you for allowing us to have a home where over 300,000 people traverse a campus and study and understand what happened in the Shoah. So thank you very much. I have the privilege of introducing Lisa Zeideman, who is the president of the Justice Brandeis Law Society of the 9th Judicial District, an outstanding attorney, someone committed to so many good causes, and a real leader in the field of the Jewish Bar Associations. Please join me in welcoming the president of the Brandeis Law Society, Lisa Zeideman.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for all the work that you do every year to put this together. It's an enormous amount of work, and we really thank all of the judges who have come to support us and all of you who have also come to support us. Today, it's my absolute privilege and honor to introduce you to the Honorable Joan B. Lefkowitz. There's so much to say about Judge Lefkowitz. Last night, when I was actually putting together my speech and reading it to my husband to see if it made sense, he said, that is the busiest woman I have ever heard of. How could she do all of these things? He said, this is impossible that she's doing all this. I said, that's who she is. So I could speak about her brilliant career, which I'm going to do for a few seconds here, that she graduated from NYU, that she also graduated from Brooklyn Law School, that she was admitted to the New York Bar in 1974, the Southern and Eastern Districts of the U.S. District Courts in 1975, and then the United States Supreme Court in 1982. That she is now serving her third 14-year term with over 39 years as a Supreme Court Justice in the 9th JD, and previously was a family court judge. As a Supreme Court Justice, she supervises the alternative dispute resolution part, the infant compromise and wrongful death part. She's supervising judge for the fiduciary and guardianship matters. She's chair of the Supreme Court Library Board, and she has served as the chair of the advisory committee for the Second Department for Judicial Hearing Officer Selection. She served on the subcommittee on matrimonial law on gender fairness for the 9th JD, and she previously served as its co-chair. She also served on the Second Department Special Commission on Fiduciary Appointments, and of course, that's not enough, so she served on the Board of Directors of the Westchester Women's Bar Association. She was the Vice President of the Justice Brandeis Law Society, 9th JD. She is an active member of the Executive Committee of the Justice Brandeis Law Society, 9th JD, and she was one of the founding members of this organization. She also serves on the Lawyers Breast Cancer Alert Committee, and she was an adjunct professor at Pace Law School and Manhattanville College. Okay, so now I'm Googling Judge Lefkowitz like crazy to put this together, and I think, okay, what are some facts that I don't know about her? And I literally put this into Google, and then I see this huge article from her daughter about Judge Lefkowitz, about her commitment to Passover, about her working mom, about her grandchildren, and her absolute commitment to family, her children, her grandchildren, her husband who is here, to friendship, to the Jewish religion, to Israel, and of course to the justice system. How she travels to Israel on missions to speak to soldiers. How she hosts receptions for anti-terrorist organizations and other important causes in Israel. How she insisted on walking down in the height of terrorism in Israel, down Ben Yehuda, because she was worried that the shops were not getting enough business, that she was committed to resolving the issues that were stemming from anti-Semitism and hate in the White Plains School District, and she worked with that with me and Judge Minahan and Judge Cohn last year when the White Plains School District had swastikas actually put on the children's desks. And she was a major moving catalyst in making sure that 60 students from the White Plains School District came into the courthouse for a presentation by Andrea Winograd and Virginia Norfleet to learn how to be better together, and how the Holocaust Museum and Remembrance Center supported that and came with all of their poster boards and their videos, and they worked together with 60 students in White Plains in the courthouse, and how they loved when Judge Lefkowitz actually walked across the street with them to the Remembrance Garden in White Plains. There's no question, this woman is a force to be reckoned with. She is a force to be reckoned with on the Justice Brandeis Law Society. She is an inspiration for the formation of the junior board for the Justice Brandeis Law Society, and she is always wise and kind and charitable. And so I thank you, Judge Lefkowitz, and I would ask you to come up, please.
How am I going to live up to that? I started out as a Supreme Court judge in Rockland County, and I'm so honored to be your keynote speaker today. I'd like to congratulate Barry Handrowitz on receiving the Cornerstone of Democracy Award. Mazel tov, Barry. I am sad and I am troubled that after the Holocaust, we believed and we promised ourselves, never, never again. Yet a Holocaust against the Jewish people occurred again on October 7th. Over 1,200 Jews were slaughtered and more than 200 were kidnapped. We are left at this time essentially alone among the nations of the world. We have to fight and we have to defend ourselves. When I was in Washington, D.C., I noticed on the wall of the Holocaust Museum, and when Jeff was president, Judge Cohen, we actually sent out a letter to the members of the Brandeis Society in 2019 warning about anti-Semitism. And this was the quote we put on the letter. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and again I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak to me. That's exactly what you just said. Exactly what you just said. In 1991, I was sitting as a new Supreme Court judge assigned to Rockland County. I went on a UJA mission to Auschwitz, and who was on that mission? Paul Adler and Barry Kandrowitz, his parents, Daisy and Walter. The concentration camps were a massive architecture for the genocide of the Jewish people. On exhibition at Auschwitz, one can see mounds of children's toys, eyeglasses, shoes, and hair taken from the victims before they were killed. You actually see the gas chambers and the ovens. I believe then that anyone who sees this evidence of the atrocities would prevent it from ever happening again. I realized how huge a tragedy happens because of hate of others, because of their ethnicity and their nationality. The rationale spewed out by the Nazi propaganda was that ethnic cleanses was necessary to purify and preserve a superior race. What's the rationale today, everybody? The rationale is that the Jews stole land. Never again happened again. When kibbutz Be'eri, the largest kibbutz near Gaza, and several other kibbutzim were attacked. With a heavy heart, I visited the kibbutz in December, with the war taking place a few miles away. When I entered the kibbutz, I could see the indescribable destruction. The kibbutz was originally a peaceful place with flowers, with sculptures, with chirping birds. Now the homes were burnt out and they were destroyed. You could see the bullet holes in the walls, and you could actually smell the blood that was all over the floors. It was less than 6 weeks afterwards. You saw the cupboards that children were pulled out of and murdered in front of their parents. There was crumbling debris on the streets. Synagogue in the kibbutz, it's a little bit different than what happened in Germany, was miraculously not destroyed. Was the terrorist who tried to enter it was shot right outside the synagogue. Little victory. This was an Auschwitz-like setting that I visited right after the barbaric slaughter, the rape, the mutilation, the torture, and the abduction of so many Jews, men, women, children, babies, and the elderly, in this beautiful, beautiful, peace-loving community. The kibbutz, like all the rest that were attacked, was a peace-loving kibbutz. They helped, they interacted with the Gazans, and the families were friends with each other for generations. Even, they drove them to the hospitals when they were ill. Walking through this kibbutz reminded me of walking through those concentration camps in Poland. It was motivated by the same genocide and hatred as the Nazis. As to women on this kibbutz, sexual violence was used as a weapon of war. Rapes, mutilation. Why would you do something like that? The theory was when the body of a woman is violated, it symbolized the body of the whole nation. And that's what they wanted to destroy. Not only did those people who survived live through the tragedy, but there's still over 100 hostages in Gaza from these families who are still suffering, still being violated, and they're not releasing them. The kibbutz is going to be rebuilt. Some residents have already returned to try to maintain some life in that kibbutz. I remember when I stood there, when we bowed our heads in sorrow. It's just unbelievable what we saw. The young men who lived on the kibbutz and took us through and lived through the attack told us, keep your heads up and don't crouch down in fear or sorrow. We were victims during the Holocaust. But because we have the IDF and Israel now, we are not victims today. We can fight back and we can still survive. The Israeli military has destroyed more than 40% of the Hamas tunnels. 18 of 24 battalions have been dismantled. The majority of the rockets have been destroyed, and many senior Hamas commanders have been killed. This time, there is no march into those ovens. People were burned to death in their homes, but with a fight, and that fight is going to continue. During the Holocaust, there were some people, righteous Gentiles. They helped save people who were on their way to the gas chambers. Tell me today, who helped those hostages that were taken down those tunnels and into the various homes of the people who lived in Gaza? There was not one righteous Gazan that stopped the rapes, that stopped the killings. Instead, they participated in the killings, the rapes, and the pilfering. Israel is criticized for defending itself, and its existence is at stake. Our refuge from the Holocaust atrocities must be made safe again. Do not, Paul said it, I'm telling you, Lisa's telling you, do not remain silent. Every single one of you here must speak out against hate. October 7th was the second deadliest assault on Jewish people since this Holocaust. We cannot remain silent, and we have to speak out. Because what happened? Right after October 7th, the ugly head of anti-Semitism has risen anew, and Jew hatred has started again. All over the world and in our own country. Massive protests are taking place all over the world, blaming the victims and proclaiming kill the Jews and gas the Jews. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, the former chief rabbi of England, said, and listen to me carefully, as a Jew, I carry with me the tears and suffering of my grandparents and theirs through the generations. The story of my people is a narrative of centuries of exiles and expulsions, persecutions and pogroms. Jews knew that they or their children risked being murdered simply because they were Jews. Those tears are written into the very fabric of Jewish memory, which is to say, Jewish identity. And here we are. Jews account only for 2.4% of the US population and are victims of at least 65% or more of religiously motivated hate crimes. On the college campuses, over 65% of college students active in Jewish organizations felt unsafe on campus because of physical or verbal assaults. They don't wear their yarmulkes, and they are forced to conceal their Jewish identity and fear supporting Israel for their own safety. They even fear going off to college, seeing what we have in front of us. We gotta change that. What can we do now? 2004. What can we do about anti-Semitism and hate? Every Holocaust survivor sitting here with us today is going to say, we have to stop the hate, and we cannot remain silent. In Westchester last year, a swastika was painted on a White Plains High School student's desk. And Lisa discussed it briefly. Our Jewish Lawyers Association, the Brandeis Law Society, presented an educational program consisting of our administrative judge Minahan, myself, Lisa, and the Rockland County Holocaust Museum. And Andrea Winograd and Virginia Norfleet, did they do a job? Nobody could have made a presentation about hate like they did. The students were educated about the origins of hate and its danger and the lessons of the Holocaust. Education is one way, but Holocaust education, as they taught the students, don't begin in the gas chambers or the ghetto. It begins with words. It begins with the kind of discrimination and ideology that we see in front of us, which is all wrong. And they taught the students that. And I think it made the student who had the swastika on her desk, and Lisa will attest to this, feel much better and walk out with her head held high. In 2013, this organization hosted a lawyer who brought an Orange County Pine Bush Central School District lawsuit alleging anti-Semitic slurs and painting of swastikas on buildings. This is 2013, and playgrounds over 10 years ago. There's a way of doing it. Bring some lawsuits. Enforce and make hate crimes airtight. It's another way to do it. Another thing Paul mentioned is true. Make sure that government at every single level, from the Senate to the House of Representatives, whether federal or state, that people in power who espouse hate are defeated in elections. That is your job. I don't care if I'm a judge and I can't get involved. This is called hate. Nobody's telling you about being a Republican or a Democrat or a conservative. This is about each and every one of us and what we're all facing. So it doesn't matter. How do you get involved? I don't care. You can do it like you do everything else. Let everybody know that these people cannot stay in office and espouse hate. You must speak out. You got to go to an educational program so you can learn how to defend yourself. Don't stand by when somebody says something hateful. Don't let it go unchallenged. Every single bar association in the state and their communities are trying to join together to fight hate. Several have initiated educational programs. Our own Judicial Institute had a program which Judge Jeff Cohn presented on the Holocaust and the Nuremberg trials. Education against hate is one route. The other route is to help by going to Israel. Show your support. Speak to the hostages' families when they come here. Speak to them in Israel. Go to rallies in support of the hostages. That is not political. That is hate. That is murder. That's what you're fighting. That's what you're fighting. You're not playing politics. Help at a kibbutz that's been destroyed. Let me tell you who hasn't remained silent. Robert Kraft has not remained silent. He started the Blue Square campaign. Sheryl Sandberg did not remain silent. She created a documentary, Screams Before Silence, on the atrocities committed against women that were raped, mutilated, and killed, so that the world knows and can bear witness to that. And if you don't believe me, just Google it and you'll see Sheryl Sandberg, Screams Before Silence. My husband, who's here and also helped me proofread my speech, was listening to me watching that on Saturday night. He said, "Joan, turn it off." I said, "I won't. I'm going to be a witness to that." And I challenge each of you to turn that on and see what I saw. And that's easy. Just press Google. Look up Sheryl Sandberg documentary. The families of the hostages have not remained silent, and they've traveled all over the world. What do they say? Bring them home. Some colleges have stepped up and expelled students for anti-Semitic activities. Not enough, and they forced deans espousing hate to resign. Some congressmen and senators have also spoken out. Too few. Holocaust victims have rebuilt their lives, and now Israel has to rebuild too. What a tragedy that people in this audience who have lived through the Holocaust must see the hatred happening all over again. Swastikas to protests. The hate is blatant on the physical assault of Jewish students for wearing the Jewish star, kippah. I grew up when Israel became a state. It was a refuge for Jews from the hate and the prosecution they suffered in Europe. I remember as a child learning the lessons of the Holocaust and the suffering. I learned of the resilience of the victims to rebuild their lives, their families, and their hopes. As a teenager, I went to study at Hebrew University in Jerusalem after the Six-Day War. There were terrorist bombs exploding in the school cafeteria. Who were they set by? They were set by people who hate us, and they hate all of us. And they did not want Israel to exist. The Entebbe hijackings of a plane where Jews were kidnapped and taken off a plane and separated from other passengers to be killed. The Munich Olympics and the killing of the Israeli athletes. In our own country today, there have been massacres in synagogues, supermarkets, restaurants, and Jewish schools. Most recently in Westchester County, there were hateful paintings on store windows and cars noted to be driving by with swastikas. This is in White Plains and this is in Scarsdale. Several years ago, a rabbi was attacked and killed in his home in Rockland during Hanukkah. Every synagogue now has to have security guards outside with guns. Yet the world is remaining silent and blaming the Jews. Remember, this is not just about Jews, Paul told you. This involves every single one of you, so speak out against hate. I'm going to just leave you with one thought. May the memory of those who perished in the Holocaust and the massacres in Israel remain vibrant to all who live in this country. And may the hostages be returned. Let us straighten our resolve to aid those at home and abroad who suffer from injustice born from ignorance and intolerance, to combat crimes that stem from hate, racism, and prejudice. And we must be forever engaged in our quest for democracy and respect for the dignity of all.
In 1991, she had that same spirit, courage, and vigor. And Judge Lefkowitz, on behalf of the Holocaust Museum, we just want to present you with this gift, and we know that you will put it on your doorposts. You know, Judge, you got me thinking. It's time for another community-wide mission to Israel. The last mission that we had that the judge spoke about was a real interfaith community mission that Israel Bonds sponsored, and we had 93 people on 4 buses. Those of you that remember those kinds of early trips, Don Tershwell of blessed memory was one of the architects of the trips. We spent more time in the air than we did at the ground, but they were really so important. We were in Israel and in Poland, and there's no better way to see the contrast of that. And I had the privilege of traveling with Barry's mom and dad, Walter and Daisy, on that trip, and I was very young, just because the judge left. You didn't have to say it was 91 that trip.
I was young too.
With all due respect, Judge, I was a little younger. Just a couple. If we're in court, I object. I object to that. But it's one of those remarkable events that happen and bring people together, and I think we'll take a look at doing that, perhaps putting together a community-wide mission. I know Donna, your dad, was on that trip, and so many other great leaders during that period of time. So maybe we'll take another look at that. This year, as we talked about, the cornerstone of democracy, which is the cornerstones of democracy are civic, civility, and the legal community. And in trying to figure out who is an appropriate honoree for that, it really had happened instantaneously that we thought of Barry Kenchowitz. Barry and his firm have exemplified community service. I've had the privilege of knowing Barry when his father said to me, "Can't you do something? Can't you help him get involved in something? Can you get Barry on the right track?" He didn't say it quite that way, but I like to say it that way. But Barry got involved in the very early days when we were founding the modern JCC that we have in West Nyack today. And as a past president and founder of the JCC, one only needs to look at that edifice to see the kind of commitment and the level of skill and care that Barry brings not only to his community involvement, but to his work as a preeminent attorney here in Rockland County. And I hear tell that there are going to be more Kenchowitz attorneys joining the family. So I'm just saying I've heard that. It's a rumor. Right? You haven't started yet, correct? So, we don't know. We don't know if your brother has really started yet, but we're gonna get there. And then you need to read this really great CV that has been put together. Barry's mother wrote it, and Walter believed it. But Barry is also a graduate in the first class of Leadership Rockland, and as I said, was instrumental in making sure that the JCC happened, which is the central address of the Jewish community here in Rockland County. Barry is also a recipient of the Ben Gurion Award from State of Israel Bonds, and has been honored many, many times, and served as an officer of the Rockland Community College Foundation, and was a county legislator in District 5. Barry and his firm, as I said before about Ginny Norfleet, Barry's firm talks the talk and walks the walk. Please join me in welcoming our honoree today for the Civic, Civility, and Cornerstone of Democracy Award to the Honorable Barry Cantrell. And Barry, before you begin, we're going to do this a little bit backwards, but Judge Lefkowitz talked about in our visit to Poland, we noticed in some of the places that we visited that the remnants of Jewish life have been erased. And they were erased by the Nazis and the Polish, who had such hate in their hearts. Something that they may have overlooked, or just it wasn't enough time to complete their scale of hate that they were ramping up, was that there were still mezuzahs left on doorposts. Many of them had been painted over many, many times. It looked like a sort of a bump in the doorpost. You weren't sure really what was underneath it, but there was a mezuzah, which has the Shema, the prayer, the most sacred prayer in it. And at our museum gift shop, we happen to have a cast of a mezuzah that hung on a Polish doorpost to remind everybody of our past and to celebrate with our future. So Barry, this is a mezuzah from this home, and we would like you and Sharon to have this for your home.
Thank you, Paul. That was even nicer than what my mother told you to say. Thank you to the Justice Brandeis Law Society and the Holocaust Museum and Center for Tolerance and Education for this honor. I want to thank my wife Sharon, also a lawyer, my family, my partners, and my firm, all of whom have made it possible for me to do the types of things that I've been able to do outside of the office. It's a privilege today to speak before this gathering of our judiciary, court staff, our distinguished guests, my colleagues and friends and relatives. I grew up in this courthouse. Over my almost 39 years practicing here, I tried cases before many of the judges whose portraits now hang in our courtrooms. I've appeared before many of you, tried some cases before many of you. I find it hard to believe that now I'm older than a lot of you. I had two great mentors. My dad, Walter, who turned 94 recently, and Paul Goldhammer, who retired just a few years ago. I was taught, be prepared, do the right thing, always be civil and truthful, because your credibility with everyone is the key to your success. Your credibility with your clients, your credibility with your adversary, the judge, and of course the jury. And if you're prepared and if you do the right thing and you're honest and truthful, everything else will work itself out. And it has. My partners, Gary, Randy, Melissa, and Kate, are good people in addition to being very good lawyers. And we mentor our staff in the same tradition, to do the right thing. And truth and doing the right thing are critical whenever you discuss the subject of democracy and Yom HaShoah. We were all taught in school that history repeats itself. We must remember and never forget, learn from our mistakes and the mistakes of others, and do whatever we can to not repeat them. My mother was born in Berlin, Germany in 1934. She fled Germany in 1938 with her mother's side of the family, was very fortunate to settle on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Other relatives were not so lucky. I remember many Passover dinners when my grandmother and my great-grandmother's friends, some of them survivors, would tell stories of their experience in Nazi Germany. I was too young then to grasp the importance of what they were saying, but I remember a lot of what they said. The collapse of the German legal system allowed the Nazis to take over. The lawyers and the judges failed in their responsibility to do the right thing. The judiciary lost its independence completely. Public servants were replaced with Nazi supporters, and the fundamental legal principle became whatever is good for the Nazis is now legal. Truth was replaced with propaganda and lies. A populist demagogue rose to power, and a world war erupted. 6 million Jews, along with many others, were murdered. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. And today, the world is teetering. Right here in the United States, truth is no longer the most important principle in our society. Certainly not in social media, and certainly not even in the mainstream media. Truth has taken a back seat to alternative facts. Ignorance has overtaken knowledge. Our legal system is based on truth. Witnesses are sworn to tell the truth. Trials are supposed to be searches for the truth. And criminal defendants are given legal protections to make sure that even at the cost of letting the guilty go free, facts are proven beyond a reasonable doubt because truth matters. We as lawyers need to be advocates of truth, not just in the courtroom, but in our communities. Free speech, the cornerstone, one of the cornerstones of our democracy. We all know that our government is not perfect. We know the government of Israel is not perfect. But there is a huge difference between being critical of government and calling for the destruction of a country and the annihilation of its people. What is happening on college campuses today is just awful. It's not peaceful, it's not grassroots, and it's not truthful. And I have 2 kids in college who have witnessed it firsthand. There is a clear lack of understanding of the battle between a group openly dedicated to the killing of Jews and the destruction of the state of Israel, on the one hand, and a democratic country that would peacefully coexist with a group of people who don't openly call for their death and annihilation. War is terrible, but there is no truthful or peaceful or grassroots defense of Hamas. Terrorists must be eliminated. These are not freedom fighters. Freedom fighters don't torture civilians, rape and kill women and children, and burn babies. They don't hide behind civilians. They don't operate out of hospitals. And sometimes there is a clear right and wrong. If you come upon a protest and there are people on opposite sides of the street, if one side of the street has Nazis or white supremacists, that's the wrong side. If one side is yelling from the river to the sea, which directly calls for the killing of Jews and the eradication of the state of Israel, that's the wrong side. You don't need to know more. My mother, she'll be upset that I say this, will soon be celebrating her 90th birthday. Like many of us, she is concerned for her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. She sees what we see, the youth at our most elite colleges, the supposed leaders, the future leaders of our country, on the wrong side. So the message today, and you've heard it before, we, every person in this room, needs to educate the ignorant. We need to insist on the truth. Truth is not a partisan issue. It doesn't matter if you lean left or if you lean right. Just stick to the truth. Be prepared. Educate yourself. Help educate others to do the right thing. It's not that hard. God bless America. I'm Yisrael Chai. and bring them home.
You think we made the right choice with this honoree? Barry, thank you for your words, your thoughts, and mostly for your commitment and involvement. Barry is one of those few people that just never says no, and whenever you ask him, he's there. And at this point, we're going to proceed to our candle lighting ceremony. When we first started this, we lit 6 candles, 1 candle for each one of the 6 million. Then, after having a really good discussion with Judge Sherry Eisenkress, who is the chairman of the Rockland County Pride Center, which I was greatly honored to be a founder of, one of the founders, we added the 7th candle, which is the candle for hope and humanity. And this year, we've added another candle called the Candle for Democracy. So I'd like to call up the president of the Justice Brandeis Law Society, Lisa Zeiderman, and the president of the Jewish Bar Alliance, but more importantly, the grandfather of Tanya Pearson, and you'll hear about that with Jeff Cohen, to light the first candle.
Barry and I don't always agree, but he's right about my granddaughter.
Say it first.
Sure. We light this first candle in recognition of the 6 million Jews and millions of other victims and survivors of the Holocaust. Today, we also recognize the importance of maintaining a strong, democratic system and independent judiciary as we understand how completely these systems failed during the Holocaust.
We are honored to recognize the members of the legal and judicial system here with us today, fighting to ensure that these failures never happen again.
Great. Thank you.
That's one of the new and improved things we're doing. Last year, it took like 15 minutes for Judge Cohen to light the candle.
That's
He just went to like electronic candles. It was easy. You live and you learn, you know? Ray seems to look, you find you take your picture where you find them. The second candle is being lit by our County Executive Ed Day, the Honorable Thomas E. Walsh, the Rockland County District Attorney, Donna Gorman Silverman, our Rockland County Clerk, and our Sheriff, Louis Falco III. So if you'd please join us up here and light the second candle for grief.
We light the second candle as a sign of our communal grief, the loss of love, life, of all that could have been and all that should have been.
You also recognize that grief that comes in witnessing the historical corruption of the law and judiciary that we typically view as a profession above reproach.
How do we understand the failure, not only of the institutions themselves,
But of the many individual people who compromised them?
I want you to know this took 6 months of planning just to get the 4 of them up to light the candle. And I'm grateful to County Executive Day, who was originally on vacation, cut his vacation short by a day, literally, to come back and be here at this candle lighting. We appreciate it. We want to thank our district attorney, who has been, and he and his office, Pat Froley and others in the office have been diligent in prosecuting hate crimes, and make no mistake about it, if there's a hate crime in Rockland County, prosecution is going to be swift and deliberate. Donna Gorman-Silverman, the Rockland County Clerk, who has just been an enormous community spirit here in the county and a very special place in my heart, having known and worked with both her late mother and late father, who were terrific members of this community, and we appreciate that. And of course, the Sheriff Falco, who is always behind the scenes making sure that we are safe and secure in Rockland County. It is no wonder we have one of the safest communities in the country, and that's because of our great law enforcement folks, both here in the county and the next candle, we are asking all of the female members of the judiciary to come up and light the next candle, and that is the candle for moral courage. As Joan Lefkowitz spoke about earlier in her remarks, the rape and mutilation and continued sexual violence that occurs 214 days into the hostage taking from the state of Israel in Gaza continues. And this, I think, is a very powerful moment to have the members of the female members of our judiciary standing up so that we remember particularly the women and children and babies that are still in captivity.
We light the third candle as a reminder of moral courage displayed during the Holocaust. As the great thinker Hannah Arendt once wrote, "Evil thrives on apathy and cannot survive without it. The sad truth is that most evil is done by people who never make up their minds to be good or evil." Today we recognize our responsibility to cultivate moral courage in all that we do.
The next candle, the fourth candle, is being lit by arguably the youngest person in the room today by a wide margin. And she is the new president of our junior board at the Justice Brandeis Law Society. And we couldn't be more proud of the accomplishments of the junior board already, but we are absolutely dazzled and amazed that Talia Pearson is the person that she is. She is just remarkable in her energy and her commitment to these causes. She is the granddaughter of Nomi and Jeff. And unlike her father, she will keep her remarks to 2 minutes. And we ask that the new president of the junior board of the Justice Brandeis Law Society, Talia Pearson, come up and recognize them.
This is the candle of remembrance. We light the fourth candle as an act of remembrance. We remember the importance of civics, civility, and democracy in very particular ways. These concepts are the very cornerstones of our society. If we choose not to value and protect these practices, we know where the road leads because the history of the Holocaust has taught us. Today we must choose how we will respond to the past. Will we forget it, or will we make meaningful action for our memory?
Good afternoon. My name is Talia Pearson. I'm a sophomore at Yorktown High School and the president of the junior board of the JBLS. I'm honored to be here today and grateful for the opportunity to speak about the junior board. The junior board was founded this past February with the mission of combating anti-Semitism, supporting Israel, and preserving the memory of the Holocaust. Most importantly, we aim to foster a sense of unity and shared commitment to supporting the Jewish community among youth. To be a Jew, especially a Jewish student today, is not easy. Often it is isolating and scary. After the heartbreak of October 7th, we became forced to fight for our very right to exist and to have a home. To be a Jewish student is also a responsibility. We have been making the promise never again for 80 years, but October 7th and the atrocities that have followed it are proof that we are not safe from the horrors of our past. The Jewish people have survived and thrived for thousands of years. We will continue to do the same, but only with the foundation of strong, proud, and united youth. I'm grateful to have been given the opportunity to begin creating this junior board, to begin creating a community of proud and committed Jewish students. Together, I have confidence in our ability to secure the future of our people and to ensure that the promise of never again is fulfilled. Recently, the junior board created packages that were delivered to displaced families in Israel. And this past week, we held a Yom HaShoah Commemoration at the Holocaust Museum here in Rockland. We hope to continue expanding and supporting the Jewish community here in Israel and throughout the world. If anyone knows of high school or college students who are interested in getting involved, please reach out to me. Thank you.
I don't know.
Wow, Zadie.
It must be grandma.
Zadie, Savta, what do you say? This is really what it's all about. Talk about taking that step to do something. That's someone doing something, and it makes a difference. One person taking a step and leading others. Thank you so much, Talia. The next candle is lit by our partners at the Rockland County Bar Association. I'm proud to be a member of that association, and I can tell you that when we need help, when we want to have this event, Nancy Lowe Hogan, the executive director, is our first call, and Rob Fellows, the president of the Rockland County Bar Association, are here to light the fifth candle.
Thank you, Paul. We light the fifth candle as a call to action.
There is no better time than today to put our values into action.
It's one thing for all of us to sit here together in a very safe community, but it is entirely another thing to stand up to those people who would degrade democracy, belittle civics, and actually shun civility.
Their methods are cunning. We must be smarter. Whenever we hear someone hawking authoritarian principles, disparaging education, and promoting divisive ideologies, we must raise alarms.
All of us are obligated to work together with our colleagues, with our friends in the judicial system, to create early warning signs against those individuals who would seek to destroy or undermine our democratic systems.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barry.
Our next candle is being lit by Herta and Leo, two Holocaust survivors who are here with us today, along with Dr. Lester Rapallo, the president of Rockland Community College. Lester, Leo, and Herta, and Miriam Edelstein.
Humanity. We light the sixth candle for humanity. we pledge to maintain a constant compassion for all people around the globe, not just those who look like us, worship like us, or think like us.
We recognize the beauty and strength in our differences, and we hold our common humanity in the highest regard. The dignity inherent in each of us calls out for connection. We will always answer that call.
We're honored and privileged to have survivors with us at this Yom HaShoah Commemoration. The next candle is the candle for hope and humanity. We ask the Honorable Sherry Eisenkress from the Supreme Court.
I light the seventh candle in the name of hope. We see the good being done in our communities and around the world. Sometimes it is difficult in times of strife to center on the positive, but we cultivate the hope that lives in our hearts. When we fall into despair, we choose to refocus on the love, connection, and beauty all around us. We need only look for it. As they say, hope springs eternal from the most unexpected places.
And the final candle, the candle for democracy, will be lit by the Honorable Thomas P. Zugabe, New York State Supreme Court, 9th JD, senior resident presiding. That means he's the oldest thing in the courthouse.
I would like to invite up the remaining judges to stand with me. Come on. Come on.
Come on, judges.
Nobody will take it.
You're reading. What? You're reading. It's up to you. Not resident. I'm never resident.
So I light the eighth candle in the name of democracy. We light the eighth candle for democracy. We honor our system of governance that values each of our voices to create something that represents a beautiful mosaic of our citizenry. The system is not perfect, not by a mile, but it always has the potential to be better, to do better by its citizens.
Together we can and must work to create a more perfect union by elevating democratic principles and making them more accessible to all people. Our friends in the law and judiciary will be excellent partners in this noble pursuit. Thank you.
And now I am delighted to introduce the wind beneath the wings of the Holocaust Museum and Center for Tolerance and Education. Our executive director, Andrea Meyer-Winograd, is someone of extraordinary talent. It was said at the brunch for the Holocaust Museum just a day or two ago, while the memory of the Holocaust grows old, the mission and vigor and message of the Holocaust Museum grows younger, in large part for the reimagining of how this story is told, how we need to present the Holocaust in today's milieu. And again, you are cordially invited. If you have not been to that museum, please make a call, go over, take a look. It's free, walk around. It is a world-class museum. Please join me in welcoming Andrea Meyer-Winograd and the indomitable Virginia Norfleet, the president of the Council of African American Friends.
Thank you, Paul. You're actually the wings. You're the one that brought us to the college. You're the one that accepted us at the college. And Jeff Weinberger, where are you? Can you stand up for one moment? Where? I don't know. There's back there. Do you, Judge Lefkowitz mentioned Pine Bush in 2013. We were in Pine Bush in 2013, educating that school, and I am proud to tell you that we have a 98% retention rate with our schools, and they come back year after year after year. So, I'm up here today with my sister. Does anyone know the difference between sister and sister? Well, we start with the kids like that, so it really breaks them down. But this is my chosen sister, and we work tirelessly every single day. It's a 5:30 phone call after I'm on with Paul Adler at 5 o'clock and the 5 a.m. crew, David Christel and everyone else. But really, to stand by the side of this woman that fights for civility, democracy, upholds the Constitution, and it's just an honor, Virginia, just an honor. And to be in your presence, all of you that uphold this Constitution, is just an honor. And from both of us, thank you. Thank you. So the founding laws of this country and our principles of democracy are based upon bringing together multiple voices. We are stronger and better together across political affiliations, class differences, race, religion, gender. When we let out our common humanity, we lead, and we know the direction is righteous. I stand next to a righteous woman, and I'm going to turn it to her, because usually people want to hear from her. A lot of times it's us, but they really want to hear from Virginia. So, can I turn it to you, sister?
Just don't hand me the mic.
Oh yeah, no, no hand in the mic. But you can talk in the mic.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. We have the privilege to teach children daily, basically, on the rights and wrongs in life, and the good and the bad and everything else. But people ask this question to me all the time. Why? Why do you stand for the Jewish people? Why do you stand for people that do what they think? They buy our houses, they take our land, they do these things. And I ask them, why not? Because within the Jewish people, my people found strength. So I don't just pay respect and honor to my ancestors, but I must pay respect and honor to your ancestors, because it was some of your role models who gave us the courage to stand. And I'm going to step out there. I always get in trouble. I'm always in trouble, right? And you know. But I'm going to say something to you guys. The most segregated places in America are called temples and churches. I have big problems with this, because the church is birthed out of the temple. And so if you offend the temple and the people of the temple, you must offend me. Where's the church? Call on your friends. Don't just invite them to a dinner. Don't just invite them, when it's good political times and things are good. Have them open their mouths and stand in times of trouble like this. Because from you, we got our strength. From you, we got our heroes. From you, we have our founding principles of our beliefs. And so it's one thing to come together, but look across this audience. Where are my people? We're the church. The church is our foundation. And we're birthed from you. It's one thing to talk it, it's another thing to walk it. Ain't it, Paul?
Got that.
Okay? And you have to, I tell Andrea all the time, I said, Andrea, don't let people get away with this. We are one, back to back. That's why Better Together works. A lot of people don't like it, but guess what? If you come from Andrea, you have to come through me, and vice versa. If you put a swastika on that board, it's no different than putting a noose on the board. It's offensive, and we have to learn to stand together. All of us. This is what America is founded on, okay? And until we open our voices, open our mouths, and stand together, if you offend me, you offend her, then we will lose what we know as America, the greatest country of all time, because of our freedoms. And it costs something. It costs something. Sometimes it's going to cost you to lose a friend, but trust me, they weren't your friend anyway. In times of trouble, that's when I need you to stand. I will not let Andrea defend right now. I tell Andrea, they hear from you all the time, sweetie. They come for you, let me talk. And it's the truth. When we're in the schools and kids say, yeah, but it's a swastika. I teach kids, it's a swastika today. Tomorrow it'll be the noose, and tomorrow it'll be somebody else. Because when they come for the Saturday people, guess what, church? Sunday's next. No, it's the truth. Every church in Rockland County should be standing with the rabbis to say, we won't tolerate this. And I tell them, the day you go against a Jewish person, and some people in this room have heard me, when you don't want to stand with the Jews, go home and burn your Bible, because that's all it is. It's a Jewish book, every day of the week. It is. So we must learn how to stand together. We cannot eradicate hate until we show that we love each other enough to take a chance, arm in arm, and stand against it. Andrea's voice alone is not enough. They see me coming, well, what do you got to do with it? A whole lot. From the beginning to the end. And this is what we do. And Andrew says it's 40,000. It's really more like 60,000. And we take it on. And sometimes we may not be the crowd favorite, but guess what? We love each other, and we know in the end, all that will stand is love.
Thank you, Julie. I hope that you are looking at some of these pictures of these kids' faces who we touch every day. And I just want you to know, first of all, Talia Pearson, can you please stand up for a moment? Talia fought so hard with her principal and her administration to get us into Yorktown High School. And what a privilege to do that assembly. It's because of people like you that were in the schools. It's not us calling the schools. As a matter of fact, we were called from someone, a friend of a friend, who got us into Franklin Lakes, the two high schools. And on the way here, I got a phone call from Elmwood Park. Can you please help us bring together the Jewish and Muslim community? We heard about you guys. It's word of mouth, and it's you guys. It's you that get us into the schools. So please, speak up, be like Atalia. Tell them you have a Holocaust museum, you have two people that are better together, and we're all better together. So, Paul Adler, can you please come up here? I know you're sitting down, but on behalf, you're always presenting gifts, and on behalf of all of us here, we want to present to you the cast mezuzah from the Lodge Ghetto that I know you and Mary love so very much. And we just wanted to thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
The Lodge Ghetto was where my mother's family was wiped out during the Shoah, and been to Lodge 3 times. It's something we all have to do, so we're going to get that community trip going. We are now going to conclude with the Mourner's Kaddish. We're going to ask you to rise as Cantor Anna Sahar leads us in the Mourner's Kaddish. This is a Holocaust memorial and remembrance, and it is fitting that we recite this prayer. And then just immediately following the prayer, we're going to ask folks to say their name. So many of you have been given candles and some other information to stand up and say their name. And because we will not allow the group of hostages to be spoken about as a group, as is the mission of the Holocaust Museum. The Holocaust didn't happen to a group, it happened to individual people. That's why at the museum in Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, each name is listed, of every name that could be found. We no longer can think of this in the abstract. These are people. So please draw your attention to Cantor Zohar.
Please mention the names of your loved ones if you have family or friends who perished in the Holocaust. Thank you. And say the names of your loved ones, your family, friends who perished in the second Holocaust in Israel on October 7th, if you have anyone. יתגדל ויתחדש שמי רבה, וילמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחי יכול וביום יכול וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגדלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ולברו. לעילם כה ברכתה שירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה וידברו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיים, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו say your names out loud.
Sagi Dekel Chen.
Karina Ariev.
Omer Dutra.
Daniela Gilboa.
Ariel Cunel.
Light the lights.
We're saying the names of those who have been kidnapped and who are held in Gaza. If you have a light, please say their names.
So say their name out loud.
Shama Sayed.
Avi Katz.
Karina Ariev.
Muhammad El Atrash.
Gadi Moses.
Almog Sarusi.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and this concludes the special session of the Supreme Court and this Holocaust remembrance. Thank you all.